Hey everybody. Okay, I'm trying to change the orientation of my video and it's not working. Melissa K. Range, Igniting Change. Thank you for being here today. I'm running a little bit behind because I have children home for the summer. And so, I'm a single mom. I'm just doing my jam and I'm trying to get it all done, which is pretty typical of me. And so my video today is about, of course, fear. And changing fear or shifting out of fear, what would it look like if we were to rise instead of staying stuck in the fear? Well, we can take that word fear and we can say face everything and rise. And I'm going to go through a couple of points about what it would mean to rise. Because there's another saying, which I won't use the expletive in my video, but it's all about freezing everything and running, or saying, I don't care and running. And it's an acronym for the word fear. And I learned this years ago that I could choose to say, F it and run, or I could face everything and rise. And that's really where I think I have put all my focus now is don't ever stay in the fear, because for me personally, I don't like to sit in fear. So it's always going to be face my fears and rise. Yet sometimes that's a really scary thing. And what I was reading this morning in one of my meditation books, because I read meditation books every single day. And thanks for your subscription to my channel. And thank you for your likes. I really appreciate it. I know that that is important on this channel. I'm learning about that stuff, but also I'm just here to really help and educate you all about how to turn fear into confidence, of course. But years ago, when I started reading my meditation books, I was still in a place of a lot of fear. And I didn't know how I was going to rise. And I didn't know the path. And I had to learn how to come to grips with what I really wanted for my life, and then how to go after and get that and walk through the fear versus sitting in the fear. And now I don't like to sit in fear at all. I would much rather walk through the fear, no matter how scary it is, versus sitting in the fear, because the action piece, if you go and look up, how do I become more confident? It's going to be every single time that you take ownership of your life and you actually do the action that's going to get you from a place of fear to confidence. It really is. And I looked up a bunch of videos last week on YouTube about how to turn fear into confidence, or how to become a more confident person. And it's going to be the action. That is what is going to drive you to become a more confident person. And so what does that really look like? It looks like ownership. It looks like ownership of your life. What are you going to own in your own personal life? And I've got some points here that I want to talk to you about to get through that fear and rise. And the first one is naming what you're afraid of without shame. What is it you're afraid of? And you have to do this with somebody you trust, with a confidant, with a therapist, with a mentor, with a group. Like, for example, as you all know, I said a video in my video last week, I talked about Al-Anon. And last night I gave a talk at Al-Anon, and that's where I'm able to share a lot of my story about how I was raised and about alcoholism in my family and what that looks like. And so it's reduced and pretty much eliminated all the shame that I had in my life. Now, this took years. It's not something that happens overnight. None of this stuff happens overnight, you all, but you have to take ownership of what it is that you're afraid of and why maybe it causes you shame. I've done tons of shadow work, and I've got lots of great resources. If you're interested in learning about shadow work, I could refer you to some work that I've done on myself with some really great pieces of literature or workbooks. And so I could tell you about that, but owning your shadow and working on your shadow is huge. That is taking ownership. And if you've got shame in any facet of your life, when you let go of that, when you remove that shame, you are going to be more, you're going to have more confidence. You are going to feel freer. You are going to feel more alive. You are going to feel more connected, because that shame isn't like baggage holding on to you. It's like what I used to say, a big backpack of rocks, and you're walking around like this and you're feeling so heavy with shame or with guilt or with anything that is bringing you down. And if you share it, have you ever heard the term, I've got skeletons in my closet and I need to tell you about them? Because when we let go of those secrets, we're not then carrying that baggage around. And so I am one of these people, as I've said in all my videos, who doesn't like to carry baggage. I like to be free of anything that's going to weigh me down or keep me from pursuing my dream life. The second thing is we shift from outcome to identity. And so ownership means committing to, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be in the world? Do you want to be someone who is critical and who is putting other people down, somebody who is like an energy vampire, somebody who is negative Nelly? And in one of my videos, do you want to be a warning to people? Do you want to be one of those people that says, oh, don't do that. Oh, don't go there. Oh, don't try this, because you're so afraid? That means you're just constantly in warning mode and telling people how to live their lives in a very negative way. And so if you take ownership of your life and you start releasing all of these things that have been weighing you down, then you actually will shift your identity. You will start to say, oh, I'm so much more positive. I see the glass half full. I can support people. I can lift them up. I can raise them up. Because you know that old saying, we change ourselves and we change the world. But if we stay the way we are, we're just going to continue to send out that vibration and that frequency to everybody else. And I really love attracting very supportive, loving, kind, compassionate people in my life. And so I have to be that. So the next one is, and I love this one, stand in your sovereignty. So if you don't know what sovereignty means, and I didn't know what sovereignty meant years ago, I was like, what does that word sovereignty mean? And I would go around saying, I am sovereign, I am sovereign. But I really wasn't aware of what the impact of saying that truly meant. And I did, and I had all my clients create a sovereignty statement. Because when we claim we're sovereign, we get to choose how we live our lives. We get to choose what we believe. We get to choose how things go, how we respond, if we're not responding, how we're reacting. We get to choose all of that. And being sovereign means I am the king or queen of my body, mind, and soul. And that is really important to me because back in the day, I let a lot of things influence me. And I would take on other people's beliefs, or I would be afraid of authority figures or take on and do what the authorities said and follow the programming. And what I learned was that didn't work out for me, especially after the pandemic. After the pandemic, I really started to question a lot of things in my life and in our world, in the US. And I really became very perceptive of what I wanted to choose to believe and what I wanted to choose not to believe or to not buy into or not be part of the programming. And that was really hard because it put me in a space for a while of being in fear. And I knew I was in a place of fear. Now, the catalyst for the fear was actually not the pandemic, but it was the death of my father. And the death of my father was in December of 2019. And then the pandemic hit in March of 2020. And so I was in a very vulnerable place. I was in a place where I was feeling so much grief. And I didn't know, with everything kind of compounding, and that year was really compounding on my grief and on my desperation. And I had a lot of fear and I was doing a lot of research, like, what do I believe? What do I want to choose to believe? But I already had learned my own sovereignty statement because I'm a priestess and we went through priestess school and we had to craft our own sovereignty statement. So I kept saying that and I kept believing that I was a sovereign being. But that doesn't mean there isn't human parts of me and I wasn't influenced by some things. And I was, and I believed in a lot of conspiracy stuff. And I was really pulled into that, into the darkness. And I needed to be, because I needed to be in that space for a while to understand I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live in fear. I am losing my joy and I'm losing myself to all of this negativity. And I didn't want to do that anymore. And so it took me a couple of years to pull myself out of that abyss. And we go through patterns like this in our life. If you've ever lost a loved one and you've been very devastated, and then I lost my mom that same year. So 9 months after my father died, my mother died. And so I really was in the thick of grief. And so I had to give myself a lot of grace, you all, which I highly recommend when you're in a space like that. You give yourself a lot of grace. We need to give ourselves more grace all the time, because especially if you're taking ownership of your life, you're gonna have situations where you feel down in the dumps, you feel a little bit behind the eight ball, and you need to give yourself grace. That is actually what I put on the title of my video, or my YouTube channel now, is Reclaim, Rebuild, Restore, because it's all about reclaiming your power, rebuilding your intuition, and restoring grace to your life. Because how many times do we just beat ourselves up and tell ourselves that we're a nobody, or that we don't mean anything, or that we're not good enough? And so I decided I am going to give myself a lot of grace, because the other way just doesn't work for me anymore. Okay, the next one is act before you're ready. Have you ever heard the terminology, fake it till you make it, you all? Fake it till you make it. And confidence doesn't come before the door, it's on the other side. So ownership and walking through your fear means that you have to go through the discomfort or the uncomfortable. And that's where the prize is, on the other side. You know, I've talked about this a lot on my channel. When I went to firewalk school, if I wanted to get to the other side of the hot coals, I had to walk on the hot coals. I had to go through what I thought was going to possibly harm me, burn me, change my foot structure, whatever. I had to walk through that. And it was scary and it was uncomfortable, but I did it because I wanted what was on the other side. And you won't feel ready, but action creates readiness. And this was something that I read again in my meditation book this morning. It was, sometimes you just have to do it scared. So I'm going to challenge you right now. I'm going to give you a call to action. What is it that you want in your life? What is it that you're afraid to go after and to get and to create? What is that thing? And what can you do today to step into that space where you're taking action on one or two things that are going to get you to that place? And then the last one is number 5, alchemize the fear. So what is this fear teaching me? What's the gift inside the fire, inside when you go to walk on the coals? What's the gift? Because fear often masks desire. You want something in your life, but this fear, you're either going to face everything and rise, or you're going to F everything and run, which is sometimes, you know, I used to do that too. But when we get curious about something, instead of feeling paralyzed, fear becomes actually a compass to the very thing that we're here to claim. And it goes back to this one word, ownership. You have the power to change your life. You have the power to take those steps to be, do, and have anything you want in your life. And you can face everything and rise, or you can just turn around and F everything and run. And there is another acronym for this, and I'm racking my brain trying to think of it. But I know for me, facing everything and rising is really my mantra and what I have come to push myself to do versus running away. And I used to be a good runner. I used to run a lot from things in my life that I desired. And what ended up happening was it came around again and again, because life is cyclical, you all. Life is not linear. It is cyclical. And so if you are trying to learn a lesson and your soul wants to learn a lesson, That lesson is going to continue to bombard you throughout your life. And you have to be willing to see the lesson, own the lesson, and do something about it, because that's what your soul really and truly wants. And so, you need to be willing. You don't have to always be fearless to do things. You just have to be willing. And I think for me, as I said in the beginning of my video, you have to be in a place where you've got a support team helping you. You've got a mentor, you've got a counselor, you've got a therapist, you've got a group of people, a community that will actually help you to face everything and rise. And I say this, and women, divine feminines, women are so good at this. We are so good at creating community. We're so good at bringing people together. And I am a priestess, so I know what it's like to run a circle of women. I've done many circles on prosperity, on cacao. And when we come together and we listen and we have compassion and we give other people grace, then we see them face everything and rise. And they see us and they say, wow, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see how you're afraid and you're doing it anyway. And so ownership, ownership, ownership is that one shift that you need to make to face everything and rise. You need to own your lessons, your fear. Because if you want what you want and going after it, you're going to have to do the work to get there. And the action will make you more confident. It truly will. I can tell you story after story after story of all the times I walked through the fear. And you know what? A lot of times, this is a truth about fear. Sometimes your fear, when you just face it, it falls away, it disappears. And I've learned that too, that when I go and I'm super anxious and I can feel it in my body. And I've said this many times, when we face something and we feel anxious, we need to celebrate, because it means we're getting close to our goal. We're almost there. We're getting close to the finish line. And so if you can learn to embrace the anxiety and say, I know I have this anxiety, and tell your body, I know I have this anxiety. It's here. I'm getting close to my goal, but I need to continue to push through and do what I'm afraid to do. You will reach the finish line and you will get that desire, that want, that thing you want to create so badly. And then what you do is you celebrate yourself, you celebrate that you did it, because that anchors in what you did. And this is how you become more and more and more confident. So that's my video for today. I hope you all are having a super duper wonderful day. It is a gorgeous day here. And I had a fabulous workout this morning in the river, which is my favorite thing to do. It starts every year right after Memorial Day. And I can't wait to go back again tomorrow. But if you'd like to know more about my Find Your Fire program, just put a message in the comments. I think the comments come on after this video because, as I said before, I can't do the comments and do the video at the same time. It's too much work for me right now until I get better at this. And so I would love to know if you're interested in my Find Your Fire program. It's a 5-week program. And it's pretty amazing. I've walked many women through it, and they really shifted and changed and loved it. And so let me know if you'd like more information on that, and I will see you very soon. Have a super duper day.